Those 4 words pierced my heart like a knife. They came from the mouth of Ashley, my former best friend, during a live interview broadcast throughout the state, as she smiled at the camera and pretended to be the brilliant mind behind the NGO that I had conceived all by myself, sleepless nights, tears, and unwavering faith included. She revealed everything: the NGO's mission, its objectives, even the details about the workshops and campaigns. Everything that had come from my head, now coming out of her mouth, as if it had sprouted from the brilliant mind of a young, pure-hearted social entrepreneur. But I knew the truth. And worse, I had proof. Before we continue with the story, I ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. This is very important to us. Thank you so much. My name is Camila, and this is the story of how a woman I trusted like a sister stole. Not money, not assets, but the recognition for something I had built with soul. And of how the truth found a way to emerge, even when all the spotlights tried to erase me. It all began when I lost my job as a communications assistant during the pandemic. Unemployed, directionless, and with a growing sense of worthlessness inside me, I started doing what I could. Delivering food baskets, helping neighbors fill out aid applications, organizing online donations. At first it was chaotic, but soon I realized it needed to be something bigger. That's how the idea for the NGO New Seed was born. A community-based project to offer legal guidance, psychological support, and professional training to people in vulnerable situations. I spent months studying how to register an NGO, writing the bylaws, and seeking partnerships. I had no money, but I had time and a purpose that gave me strength. And it was at that moment that Ashley reappeared. She had been my friend since our college days. Always pleasant, always with the right words. The daughter of a well-known businessman, she had access to circles I would never have reached on my own. When I shared my idea with her, she seemed enchanted. She said it was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard, and that she wanted to help. And I, foolishly, thought I had found my ally. She joined as a partner. She began making contacts, organizing charity events, and speaking with potential sponsors. Meanwhile, I continued taking care of the infrastructure, writing proposals, negotiating with suppliers, registering beneficiaries, and editing videos for social media. What was my dream became our project. For the first few months it worked. She brought visibility and charm while I provided planning and execution. But gradually she began taking up more space than she should. She gave interviews without informing me. She presented the project at lectures as the idea that we had. Sometimes she said, the NGO that we created. Other times, simply, the NGO that I created. But the final blow came on a Wednesday morning. I was at home in my pajamas having breakfast when I saw an ad on Instagram. Live today at 10 a.m. Meet the young visionary behind the NGO that is transforming lives. Her photo filled the screen, radiant, fully made up, with the New Seed logo in the background. I froze. I clicked play on the live video with a heavy heart. She appeared smiling, thanking everyone for the opportunity. The reporter asked how everything began. And without blinking she said, "This idea is mine." She talked about how it all clicked during the pandemic. She said that she fought against the system alone, and that she decided to turn the pain of unemployment into hope for others. I watched everything with trembling hands. Tears streamed down my face and I barely noticed. It was like watching someone steal my soul, live for thousands of people. When the interview ended, I went to the NGO's management committee group and wrote one single sentence. "Did you all know about this?" No one replied. I uninstalled my messaging app. I closed my laptop. I threw myself on the sofa and cried until I fell asleep. That night I couldn't eat dinner. I couldn't sleep. I just sat there in the dark with a feeling of humiliation and burning anger in my chest. But in the midst of the silence I remembered something that could change everything. The state government website where NGOs are officially registered. I opened my laptop. My eyes burned, but I clicked until I found the right tab. And there it was. The founder's name, registration number, tax ID, and bylaws. Every piece of data was linked to me, Camila. Ashley's name did not appear anywhere. And of course it wouldn't. I had done all this long before she became involved. At that moment something changed. The anger was still there, but along with it came a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. I had been erased from the public story, but I was still its official author. And that was worth so much more than likes or headlines. So I began assembling a dossier. Screenshots, emails, messages, meeting records, receipts. Everything. Not out of revenge, but because if one day the truth needed to come out, I would be ready. And the universe did not delay in giving me that moment. In the days following that interview, Ashley became something of a local celebrity. She received an invitation for a documentary, gained thousands of followers, and was even called upon to speak at a national event on female entrepreneurship. Me. I watched everything like a spectator as my own story was being distorted. It was as if another woman had been cast in the starring role of my life, and I was condemned to silently watch. But I was not going to stay silent. Not anymore. I began assembling what I called a black box, an archive containing everything. The official NGO registration voice messages in which she said, "Camila, you're brilliant." Screenshots of conversations where I explained my ideas from scratch, meeting minutes, contracts listing my name as the sole legal representative. Even the first flyers and presentations bore my signature. It wasn't just wounded pride. It was my identity. It was my work. It was the truth. Meanwhile, she continued to shine. One Saturday morning, I went to a local fair where the NGO had set up a small booth. I didn't intend to appear, I just wanted to observe. I stayed across the street behind a churro cart. I saw children playing, volunteers distributing school supply kits, people smiling. It was beautiful because the project was beautiful. But there at the center of it all was Ashley with a microphone in her hand, saying that she woke up with this mission in her heart, and that she hopes to inspire other women to bring their ideas to life. It was like watching someone use my skin, my voice, my purpose, and being applauded for it. I left with a bitter taste in my mouth. But instead of crying, I sat down at my computer and wrote an email to a reporter named Maya, who had done a piece with me a year earlier when the NGO was just getting off the ground. Subject: Urgent. The true founder of the NGO New Seed. In the email I recounted everything. No dramatization, no venom. Just facts. I attached documents, screenshots, dates, links to the registration website and copies of the original bylaws. I didn't ask her to publish anything. I simply said, "If you truly want to tell a real story, here is mine." 2 days later she replied, "Can we talk tomorrow? This needs to come to light." The interview took place in a small, discreet cafe. She listened intently, taking notes and asking for proof. I showed her everything, from beginning to end. She was shocked. "Do you have any idea what she's doing to your story?" she asked. I nodded with a bitter half-smile. "I do. But now the public will know too." She promised that her report would include everything I had said. But it would not be an ordinary report. She was preparing a live investigative piece, complete with confrontations, public documents, and most importantly, transparency. The following week, I received a notification on my cell phone. The headline was direct. "Celebrated NGO's origin questioned by ex-co-founder. They stole my project." The story broke. Maya presented a 12-minute special on the evening news. She showed snippets of my earlier interview, displayed the official NGO registration with my name, and read excerpts from the bylaws showing that I was the sole founder. Then she aired a recent interview of Ashley, where she claimed to have been the creator from day one. And then came the moment that changed everything. "During a quick live search on the civil registry portal," said the reporter, "we found the official document of the NGO New Seed. The name listed as the founder and legal president is Camila, not Ashley as has been reported." The silence in the studio was deafening. I received dozens of messages. Some expressed shock. Others offered support. Some were filled with pure hate, claiming that I wanted to ruin the project. But the ones that touched me most were from the volunteers. People who had worked with me from the beginning, saying they knew something was amiss but were afraid to speak up. People who finally saw the truth being restored. The next morning, Ashley posted an official video on Instagram. She claimed that it was all just a misunderstanding. That Camila has always been an essential part of the project, and that at no point did she ever try to erase her friend's importance. That cut me deeply. But for the first time I didn't feel the need to defend myself, because I no longer had to. The proof was already there. The truth had been told. And now, anyone who chose not to believe it was doing so by their own choice. Behind the scenes, lawyers began reaching out to me. Donors started withdrawing sponsorships while demanding transparency in management. Within days, Ashley's name was removed from the NGO's official webpage. Legally, she had never been part of the founding team. And now not even on the board. She tried to maintain control. But it was no use. Because the truth when it emerges doesn't need to shout. It simply shows the facts. But the story wasn't over yet. Because even though I had won the battle, I still needed to decide what to do with it all. With the NGO. With my name. With my life. After the report, Ashley's name disappeared from the NGO's website. No official statement. No apology. No retraction. Silence. But on social media the buzz continued. Some members of the public still defended her vehemently, saying that I was jealous and that I wanted to ride on her success. Some even formed conspiracy theories about the media manipulating the facts. Yet the most painful blow was seeing some volunteers I considered close reposting her stories, acting as if nothing had happened. That made me realize one thing. Truth liberates, but it also isolates. Even with all the documentation in my favor, even with headlines recognizing me as the founder, I was still the woman who ended up tainted in many people's eyes. Because when a story is told with charm, charisma, and well-rehearsed smiles, the truth on its own appears plain. For days I wondered if I should continue with the NGO. After all, New Seed was my project. But now when people looked at it, they saw her shadow. The sponsors were confused. The beneficiaries asked what would happen next. And the board. Most had disappeared. So I did what I've always done. I took a deep breath, went to my room and opened the old notebook where it all began. The notes were there, scribbled on, stained with coffee. Names of projects that never left the page. Rough drafts of workshops, improvised budgets, motivational phrases written on the margin. Even when invisible, you are changing the world. I read that phrase as if for the first time. And in that moment I decided, I am not going to give up on my story. Nor on my purpose. But I also realized that I could no longer keep the old name. New Seed was forever marked. As justified as it was, continuing with it would be like living under a ghost I never chose. So I called two of the few volunteers who had remained by my side, and proposed a radical change. Let's start over. From scratch. They hesitated. Camila, are you really going to throw away everything you've built? I shook my head. I'm not throwing it away. I'm going to replant it. In fresh soil. Without lies. Without pedestals. Without masks. And so Firm Root was born. The same heart, the same purpose, but with a name that represented who I am now. A woman whose roots were shaken by a storm but not broken. On the contrary, I grew stronger. In the following months I started small again. A new team, new forms, new partners. Everything transparent. Everything officially registered. I visited the communities we had served before and calmly explained the situation face to face. Some people embraced me. Others admitted that they had always found Ashley's claim to be founder strange. It was painful. But it was also beautiful. Because it was real. Meanwhile, Ashley disappeared from the headlines. She stopped posting, canceled public appearances, and, according to what I was told, lost several contracts over ethical issues. Some people asked if I was happy about that. If watching her fall was my revenge. But no. Her downfall did not bring me joy. What brought me peace was reconnecting with my essence. Recognizing myself as the author of my own story. And this time not allowing anyone to steal my place. One night I received a message that made me cry again. But this time it wasn't from anger. It was from Mrs. Lucia, a kind woman who had attended the very first workshop I organized when everything was still improvised. Camila, my daughter got her first internship thanks to the training you provided. We never had anyone looking out for us. You changed that. You changed my daughter's life. And mine as well. Thank you. I sat there looking at the screen with my hands over my heart and I realized, no primetime interview, no stage, no award is worth more than that. That was my victory. Not the public humiliation by my ex-friend, but the silent transformation that continued happening every day because of the seed I planted, even if someone else tried to steal the grown tree. In the following weeks, Firm Root began to gain strength. New supporters emerged, genuine ones this time. People who saw meaning in what we were doing, not just media glitter. And then something curious happened. I received an invitation to give a talk at a national social innovation event. The very same event where, just months earlier, Ashley was scheduled to be the main speaker. In the email they wrote, "After everything that has come to light, it would be an honor to hear your version. and to inspire other women never to give up on their own truth. I read that invitation over and over, and I accepted, because now, my story would be told my way. But this moment, this stage, this reunion with my voice, is something that deserves to be recounted slowly. The auditorium was packed. Cameras adjusting focus. Bright lights. People typing on their phones, laughing, settling into their seats. And there I was backstage with a microphone pressed to my face and my heart beating like a war drum. I had given presentations before. In schools, in churches, in community centers. But never like this. Never with so many eyes fixed on me. And, above all, never after having had my story torn apart and stitched back together with my own hands. The event was called Voices That Build. A national gathering on social innovation. It was the same stage where Ashley had been scheduled to speak months earlier, as the young founder of the NGO of the moment. But now, after everything, her name had been silently erased from the program. In her place was mine. Camila, founder of Firm Root. When truth doesn't need to scream to be heard. I was called up amid applause. But before I went on stage, I saw something that paralyzed me for a moment. In the fourth row of the audience, Ashley, seated elegant as ever with a notebook on her lap and her eyes fixed on the stage. She didn't smile. She didn't look away. He just stared at me. And in that second the full weight of my journey returned. Sleepless nights. The feeling of betrayal. The anger. The doubt. The shame. Everything. But then something within me became steadfast. Like roots deepening when the ground feels threatened. I took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. Good afternoon. My name is Camila. And I'm not here to tell you a quick fix story of overcoming, one that fits into an inspiring social media post. I'm here to tell you what it's like to be robbed in silence and still keep standing. The auditorium fell silent. 2 years ago I created a social project driven by both pain and love. I started with an old notebook, a few ideas and not a single penny. But I had faith. Faith that I could change the reality for those who, like me, had always been pushed aside. I shared it all. No names. No personal attacks. Just facts. I spoke about how ideas are born fragile and how the spotlight's glare often attracts those who never sweated for anything. I recounted the moment I saw someone appropriate my story in front of millions, and how that shattered me inside. But I also told how I rebuilt myself. How I transformed the pain into strength. How I chose to abandon the old name of the NGO, even though I held the legal rights to it, in order to start over with something that truly represented me. Lies may run faster. But truth has the endurance of a marathoner. The audience listened intently. I saw people moved, nodding, long-time volunteers with tears in their eyes. And then I looked again toward the fourth row. Ashley was still. But now, there was something different in her eyes. It wasn't anger. Nor disdain. It was shame. And I didn't need to say another word. At the end, I read aloud the letter I had received from Mrs. Lucia, the mother who thanked me for helping her daughter secure an internship. And before closing I said, if everything I did served to change even one person's life, then it was all worth it. And no one can steal that. The audience gave a standing ovation. Some people cried. Others came up to embrace me afterward, sharing that they had experienced similar situations. Stolen projects, erased ideas and unacknowledged credit. And in every story I saw the reflection of my own struggle magnified. I left that stage feeling light. Not because everything had been perfectly resolved, but because for the first time in a long time I felt whole again. Outside, as I was preparing to leave, I heard someone call my name. I turned. It was Ashley. She approached slowly, her gaze lowered. Dressed in simple, neutral clothing with her makeup faded away, she was almost unrecognizable. For the first time, she didn't seem to be performing. Camila. I didn't come here to justify anything. I remained silent. She took a deep breath. I just wanted you to know that. I watched everything. And that, you are right. Those words took a while to sink in. I simply stared at her without offering a reaction. I did what I did out of ego. Out of insecurity. Because I wanted to be admired for something I never built. You built. You are the project. For the first time she seemed sincere. Yet even so, I didn't say I forgave her because I didn't need to. I simply looked at her and replied, you can steal a story, but you'll never know how to live it. And I walked away. Today, Firm Root serves 6 different communities. We have volunteer psychologists, training courses, and a growing support network that expands every week. And now, each time I look back, I no longer feel anger. I feel pride. Not because I defeated Ashley, but because I reclaimed my own voice. And that no one will ever take from me again. What did you think of this story of revenge and justice? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments and tell me which moment was your favorite. Would you have done something differently? Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and don't miss any of our stories full of twists and impactful endings.